Hello, Perrysburg Junior High Gold Band. Miss Hill here today, and we're going to talk about some different articulation markings that are commonly found in the music that you're going to be playing. So we're going to discuss what they look like, what they sound like, and different techniques for implementing them. We'll show you some examples of what they might look like in your music, and hopefully answer any questions about how they're executed while you're playing. So we're going to be going over the accent mark, the staccato mark, the tenuto mark, and the Mercado mark. To begin with the accent, this is probably one of the more common ones that you'll see. It kind of looks like a little alligator symbol you might see in math class. How these work is that they're really just bringing specific notes out in the music to emphasize them or make them a little bit more apparent to the audience. Some of you might be familiar with Mr. Bentley's example of how an accent wall in a room brings out the attention of it to a viewer. So say you had like 3 beige walls and then 1 red wall. The red wall would just kind of stand out. To make the accent mark work in context, all you do is add a little front to the note and put a little bit more air behind it, kind of making it louder to bring it out of the texture. So just on some quarter notes, you'll be able to hear the difference between them. So on the accented note, I'm just putting a little bit more tongue and really tensing my abdominal muscles to bring it out of the texture. Accents work best when you have like one accented note and then some unaccented notes so you can tell, but sometimes accents will appear in a row and that'll sound like this. So just a little bit bigger sound, a little bit more attention drawn to the sound. And yeah, so you can either see them in succession or separated from other ones, but do notice that an accent is a full-length note, so you want to make sure that you're holding that note for the duration of the time. So an articulation marking that is similar to an accent is a Mercado. A Mercado is basically the same thing as an accent, just it's a little bit separated from the other notes. So a Mercado might sound like this. So it's still a big sound. We're using a little bit more front to the note, and we're definitely puffing a little bit more air there, so tensing up our abdominal muscles again, but I'm making sure that there's a little bit of space between the Mercado accent marks. And the Mercado is the one that looks like a little, like, upside down V, a little like almost a triangle on top. So that's the Mercado, and it's very similar to the accent, which is a little confusing, but to execute it, you just need to put a little bit more space afterwards. It's not necessarily shorter, it's kind of shorter, but it definitely has space afterwards between them. And the same thing, you can see Mercados in a row, you can see Mercados by themselves, so similar to an accent, add a little bit of space at the end. The third articulation marking is the staccato, which is the little dot, the little period on top of the note. And a staccato means that you're just going to play the note separated. So it's like the Mercado without the accent. It's just a separated note. So I will demonstrate that. I think staccato is sometimes interpreted as a little bouncier. The important thing to remember with the staccato is that even though you're separating the notes, your airstream still keeps going throughout them. The tongue is just what's separating them. It's kind of a confusing concept, but if you'll listen closely again, you kind of hear the front and the end of my note, and that's just where my tongue is, stopping and starting the airstream. So staccato just means separated, and you'll likely see multiple staccatos in a row, or you might see a staccato note at the end of a phrase, something like that. All of these articulation markings really just have to do with the style of music and bringing more character to what we're seeing and hearing. And the last articulation mark will be a tenuto marking or a legato marking, and that's just when you have a line over a note. And this is telling you to really connect the notes together. They're very full value, although we're used to playing all of our notes full value. A legato marking just means you better really make sure it's full value, and it really has to do with the type of articulation that you're using. So for a tenuto marking, we need a light, fast tongue. They'll sound like this. If you're being careful, you can hear the articulation, but it's almost imperceivable, especially probably on this recording. I'll play it again. So I am articulating there. My tongue is touching the reed, but my airstream is just super duper fluid the entire time. I'm blowing lots of air, and my tongue is moving really fast, actually. The longer the note, the faster your tongue has to move to get out of the way so the air can just keep flowing. So very full length, very smooth. It's a light, like a do, 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 do tonguing to really get the notes connected and touching and kind of mushy gushy together to create a smooth sound. So we went over the accent, which is front to the note and add a little bit more air behind it to bring it out of the texture. Then we talked about the Mercado, which is a separated accent. So make sure front to the note, air, but then put a little space between it and the next note. The third articulation was the staccato, so that's the separated note, making sure that your air keeps going, but the tongue is just stopping the vibrations so that there's space between each one. And then the fourth articulation, that tenuto, making sure that the tongue moves quickly so that the notes are very connected together and you're creating a very smooth sound with the articulation. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video on articulation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in class or talk to Mr. Jordan or Mr. Bentley. Have a great day.